In this episode, I show you how to make vlogs in my office tour. I'd like to see how you approach editing. I like to time it to the beat of the music. The volume dips just before the voiceover kicks in. Even on channels that have 10 million subscribers, they're not doing this. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. Like, you're not doing much in Photoshop with that speed, are you? Bloody hell. Have just enough space to get your gob in there. I'll just wait for him to finish washing himself. That really is blinding. Do not let the background music override your voice. But then halfway through the vlog, there's an opportunity. Every now and then you'll see a YouTube content creator so desperate for content that they'll post a what's in my bag video, or even worse, an office tour.
You're gonna do an office tour, aren't you?
That's exactly what I'm gonna do. Actually, I'm not desperate for content. I've got a pile of vlogs still from the summer that I haven't got around to editing yet, but the reason that I wanted to do this office tour is because I've just completed my once yearly tidy up of the office. So it's never going to be this tidy ever again. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. So I figured this is the time I'll take full advantage of how tidy my office is, because it usually looks like a camera bag exploded, and do a little office tour for you. So let's start at the beginning. So basically you might be wondering, what is this thing? Why am I stood on this plinth? It's a good word, plinth. I do like plinth. Basically what it is a walking pad. And the reason why I got this walking pad is because it's just not good for your health to sit in a chair all day, every day, and do long work sessions like I do, which could be 12 or 16 hours long, because editing these vlogs takes a lot of time. So I had back problems, I had hip problems, I was getting fat. Still got a bit to go, but basically I wanted to lose weight and get my blood pressure down, because doctor's orders were, Gavin, sort out your blood pressure. So I got rid of the chair. It's still over there, but I never use it. And basically all of the time that I spend editing videos is spent stood on this walking pad. So you just keep it at a real slow speed and just stroll all day long. And the reason why I keep it at a slow speed is because you've got to be able to sort of function with a mouse and a keyboard and get your work done. It does go quite a lot faster, but let's see how fast it goes. 6 kilometers an hour. Okay, let's do some Photoshop. Like, you're not doing much in Photoshop with that speed, are you? Bloody hell. Anyway, if you decide it's too fast and you've had enough, just come off the rails and just stand on the side, and it'll detect that there's no motion. It'll just switch itself off. And then the next time you switch it back on, it'll just start at the 2.5 kilometers per hour. So that's what this thing is. I've totally forgotten the name and the brand and the model, but I'll put a link in the description below. I'm totally out of breath. So obviously, because we're going to try and walk backwards. Oh God, that's not good. So basically this is it. This is the full Fototripper headquarters experience. So I have my shitty laptop, which is an MSI, and I have to carry this keyboard around because after 6 months of use, this very expensive laptop decided that the letters Q, A and E would no longer work on the keyboard. So I couldn't even reply to emails. It was painful. So basically I have to carry this around. So can't recommend MSI. Sorry, MSI. That I basically just use for when I'm on the road and I just need to download and organize files and check emails, that kind of stuff. I don't really use it for editing or anything like that. When I'm on the road, I wait till I get back to the office before I start doing proper work. I'm just having a little break because that's the most exercise I've had in 2 weeks. So this monitor is a Benq monitor. I forget the actual model number and name, but I'll put a link in the description below so you can see exactly which one it is. But I've had that about a year and I absolutely love it. My images look great, the videos look good, and I trust the colors and the contrast on this screen. And it also flips vertically so that you can edit vertical images comfortably, but I've never honestly used that function. I'm sure nerds love it. Onto the audio side of things. So some of you may know that I come from an audio background. I was a music producer for 20 years. So I used to have loads of gear. I used to have racks of gear and really posh mixing desks. All of that these days for what I do would be total overkill, pretty much useless. So my entire audio rig consists of, come and have a look at this, love, consists of this really cheap Presonus audio box i1 USB audio interface. And so into that I plug in my microphone, which is this microphone. I'll show you this in a second. And every 4 years, my guitar, because I've not played guitar in 4 years, literally. And that just does everything that I need for the quality of vlogging. You know, it's not broadcast quality. If I was making an IMAX movie, I don't think I would use that. But for what I do for vlogs, that just does the job, because pretty much all I'm ever recording is one mic at a time. So I highly recommend that very affordable budget audio interface. And that just goes into this computer via USB, and I just record my voice into that. For monitoring, I use these Alesis Monitor 1 Mark IIs. I love these speakers. I used to use the Monitor 1 Mark 1s, and they were brilliant. Now, anybody who knows anything about audio and mixing will know that this is a stupid arrangement to have these this low down when my head is up here. So really what I need to do, since I changed this system and I'm now standing all the time, really what I need to do is get these on some speaker stands and have them at ear level. But for now, that's what I'm putting up with. I do have also a subwoofer down on the floor there, and I highly recommend, if you're doing any kind of audio production, especially vlogs, things like that, where you've recorded audio that's got lots of wind rumble, which is a problem that I have all the time.
You probably can't hear anything over this wind. It is mental.
If you can't hear that wind rumble in your mixing environment, how can you correct it? And if you don't correct it because you can't hear it, that means that somebody somewhere is watching that on a TV that has a giant subwoofer, and they're thinking, my God, there's a lot of rumble. These guys didn't know what they were doing. So I always highly recommend that you mix with a subwoofer, even if it's just to monitor those frequencies that you'd like to filter out. That's its main purpose. But then of course, if you've got music that's really bassy and there's some nice sub bass and nice effects in that music, it's nice to be able to hear that accurately so you can mix your levels. When I'm recording my voiceover, I just use these Sennheiser HD202s. Pretty good, sturdy headphones. They're not headphones for listening pleasure. They're headphones for getting the job done and getting some work done. And if you stand on them, they just kind of pop out of this frame and you can put them back in, and they're kind of indestructible. So I do love my Sennys. That's it's a nice little family picture there. Do you remember that, love? That was before Armageddon, eh?
Yeah.
Back when we were happy. But it all went to shit.
We're still happy.
Yeah. Over on this table here, I've got my old computer, which I basically just use to access old image files, because they're on hard drives that, you know, sometimes I need to transport across. Eventually I'll be getting rid of that. And that's my camera bag. I'm not going to show you what's in my bag, because that's another video for when I'm really, really desperate. So for now, I'll just show you that is just where it lives. That's all my camera gear. I'm a minimalist. I don't want tons and tons of gear because I can't use half of it. So I keep my gear to a bare minimum. If it don't fit in a bag, it's time to sell some stuff. This is my acoustic paneling. I think that came from a company in Vancouver called Primacoustic many, many years ago. I highly recommend that if you're doing any kind of audio recording, that you have some acoustic paneling. And even with this room is there's lots of echo. You can hear a lot of reverb, a lot of slap back from this room, but without it, it would be 10 times worse. So I'd highly recommend some of that. That's blinded. The lights that I use are these, that really is blinded, are these cheap Neewer, I don't know if you can see the logo there, Neewer LED video light panels, and they were quite cheap. I think I paid about $150 for 3 of them. And they came with these pretty cool tripod stands, and they do a decent job. These are what I use when I'm filming my tutorials. But I'll be honest, I really don't know anything about lighting and that, you know, people photography. I'm just clueless. I'm just kind of making it up as I go along. I just experiment, put them in different positions, and then if it looks good, that'll do for me. But anyone who's watching this who does know how to light people is probably cringing at where I've placed these lights right now. But anyway, they do a good job. Again, I'll put a link in the description. I get a lot of questions about what microphone I use for my voiceovers. And this is a relatively cheap, but I believe it's now obsolete. It's an SE Electronics Z3300A. And I bought this at least 10 years ago for about $700. And I consider that very cheap for a high quality vocal mic, which is what this is. So when I bought this, what I did was I went to my local music store, which is Long and McQuaid, and I rented about 8 of their most expensive condenser mics, including a Neumann and all kinds of really, really posh. One of them was like $4,000. And I lined them all up in a row and recorded my voice into all 8 of them all at the same time. And I was singing at the time as well. So it wasn't really for voiceover, it was for singing. And I could then compare the differences in quality between this 700 mic and the $4,000 Neumann mic. And out of all of those mics that I tried, this was by far the best. So I took the rest back and I bought this one. So I think this is now obsolete, but I'll find out what the modern version of this is, and I'll put that in a link in the description below. I'll show you how I record my voiceovers with my poor man's vocal booth. You'll absolutely love this. It's a really good trick. Hang on. Right, so I use DaVinci Resolve to edit all of my videos and record voiceover. So let's boot that up and I'll show you how I do it. Another question that I got asked repeatedly was, how do I handle my files? How do I handle backups, that kind of thing? So I'll show you this. These are SSD drives, solid state drives. That's a 1 terabyte, that's a 2 terabyte. And basically they just connect up to your computer by USB-C. And these days, I wouldn't say they're cheap, but they're relatively affordable. And basically I just fill those up, and then when they're full, I back them up onto a cheaper SATA drive, and the SATA drive goes to the bank and stays in a safe deposit box for backup. And then once this is full, these portable SSD drives, I'll just keep them here in a box. I don't move files around, I just fill that drive and then leave it alone and just buy another one. And it never ends, it basically continues. The only thing that changes is the price of the SSD drives. Here's how I record those lovely, silky, rich toned voiceovers that some of you comment on. So it all goes through this mic, and I'll use this pop shield so that when you go puh like that, when you hit the mic with plosives, it doesn't hit it too hard. It cuts down some of that wind power and doesn't give you that awful sound. What I'm going to do is record this voiceover, and then you'll hear a bit of the room echoing inside the track, because I'm going to compress it heavily. So, well, hello. This is Fototripper headquarters, showing you how to do a lame voiceover. Right, so that was terrible. It's really bad. So now let me do this again with the poor man's vocal booth. You're going to love this, right? So this is the poor man's vocal booth. And basically, is this a Snuggie? What is it?
Just a blanket.
It's just a blanket. It's a thick, thick blanket. So what you do is you wrap it around the microphone like that, and you've got to try and cover the front, the back, and the sides, and from underneath as well. And you just kind of peel that back and just have just enough space to get your gob in there and talk into the mic. You could even, if you really wanted to be really good about it, you just kind of do this. In fact, let's do that. Okay, I'll do that. So I'll just hit record, and then in I go to the poor man's vocal booth. I want one of those red lights that goes on just to let people know you're recording. Right, here we go. Hello, hello. This is Fototripper headquarters, recording an extremely lame voiceover. Okay, there you go. That's how you do it. Let's play that back for you, and hopefully you can hear in the background, especially if you listen to this with headphones, that there is far less room noise slapping back into the microphone. Let people know you're recording. Right, here we go.
Hello, hello. This is Fototripper headquarters recording an extremely lame voiceover.
That sounded pretty good. So that's it. That's my poor man's vocal booth. So if you want to save $1,000 in building a soundproof booth with really posh acoustic panels and all that business, all you need is a thick blanket. Job's a good one. If you really want to go crazy, get two or get a super thick blanket. When you see my tutorial videos, you'll see this microphone in the shot. The truth is I'm not actually recording through that. I'm recording through the lav mic. I just use that as a focus point, get my face in line with it, and then I know my face will be in focus. So that is a cheat that I do. But when you watch a vlog and you hear a voiceover, it's going through that microphone there. Blinded by the light. Do you want to read some questions out from some of the viewers? Question here from Photo Sophia. Was always wondering how much editing you do on your photographs. They look so epic and at the same time very natural. I struggle quite a bit with editing about this topic. All right, so one of the things that you can do to really tweak your images a lot but still make them look realistic so that they're not totally over the top. So I feel like this image here, I really like the edit that I did on that, because to me that's kind of what she's explaining there, where it's a very natural looking. It's not completely oversaturated, it's not too contrasty. It looks like, you know, it hasn't been overcooked, yet it's still, you know, I think it's an epic shot. Well, I mean, it was an epic place, so it's easy to get an epic shot when there's conditions like that. But when you do have an epic shot that you just know it's a great shot, the light was good, the composition was good, those are two things that you can always just tone down. So that is contrast. Don't crank that contrast too much, especially with the shadows. Don't make the shadows too dark. If they're too dark and you've lost every amount of detail, it's just going to look overcooked. And then the other thing is the saturation, the color saturation. Just turn that saturation slider down. I never ever increase that saturation or that vibrant slider these days. It's a few years since I've ever touched those sliders. If I do use them, it'll be to turn it down. I'll be putting it into the minus numbers. So if you go to like -12, -13 on the saturation slider, your image will look a lot more natural because it doesn't have those retina shredding colors.
Akshay Harsh would love to know how you plan your videos and skits and possibly edit them.
So this is a question that I saw quite a lot. What was a recent skit that we did? Okay, this one, right. Ads. Click on them though. There's two types of skits. One is scripted, and those are fun because we get lots of bloopers. And then the other type of skit is where it's a spontaneous thing where we just invent it at the time and then hit record, and then I just edit it in such a way that it kind of looks like it was planned. What's that you're eating?
Well, it's chocolate. You want some?
Yeah, I'd love some chocolate. Well, why don't you come and join us over here at the table?
Oh, that's nice, man. Thanks.
Yeah. Just come and sit next to Amanda there.
What about social distancing now?
Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you just wear this coffee filter as a mask? Just put it on your face. Yeah. Put it on your face. Put it on your face.
Okay.
Put it on your face. But what you will often see is a standard vlog like this one here. So this was the one that we did at Mount Kidd in Alberta.
Ah, the Canadian Rockies during autumn. The magical land of wilderness kebabs. And of course, you've got those gorgeous fall colours.
So it's a standard format vlog. So basically, off we go. There's no planning. There's literally, this is where I want to go and shoot. Let's see if there's some good light. Off you go with zero planning, and you just film yourself doing the vlog. But then halfway through the vlog, there's an opportunity to slot in a skit. And that skit might be recorded 2 months later, because all of my videos were recorded, everything that you see was recorded 2 months ago. So with this video, we basically had a scene where we'd been out all day long, vlogging, went back to the camper, went back to the campsite, and now it was downtime. And that's a perfect opportunity to drop in a skit like this.
Look forward to.
Are you hungry, love?
Oh yeah, I'm starving.
Do you want a hot dog?
I don't eat meat, you know that.
I've got you a flake dog. I know how much you love chocolate.
That's just a flake in a bap. It is. So that whole skit there was recorded 2 months later. It might have even been 3 months, I think. And we just dropped it in at the perfect point because it filled that space that went from day 1 to day 2. In fact, the very first time that we did that was the 50/40 video where Amanda was my stalker and she dragged all of this stuff up the mountain to put into the tent, which she inveigled her way into. So where was that one? That could work, but I'll warn you now, I am extremely flatulent.
So am I. So it might be okay.
Oh, well, all right. Let's get stuck in then.
Where am I going?
I don't know.
Thanks for letting me spend the night with you in here. Just getting a little worried.
Are you worried?
Yeah.
Well, not sure why, because there's a 10-bedroom hut 10 feet away. So for the eagle-eared or the bat-eared, for people who've got amazing hearing, when you listen to that, once we're in the tent, if you listen very carefully, you should be able to hear the room sound of the spare bedroom upstairs where we filmed this. We got it looking the way we wanted it, but the sound was awful. You basically could hear the room echoing with our voices, so there was no way anyone was going to believe we were on a mountaintop. So what I did is I put a duvet over the top of the tent to deaden our voices, and that wasn't enough. So then I got a couple of acoustic panels, which I brought from my office, and that wasn't enough. So then I put another duvet over the top of that, which I'm holding up with another tripod, and I think I might have nailed the sound now so that you guys are convinced that we're up on a mountain. Once we put a few frogs on there, maybe even some crickets, depending on if we're still trying to pass it off as late spring, I think it'll be fairly believable. Edit it in such a way that you can't see the exterior of the tent, so you believe that it was actually shot up on that mountain. I mean, I even have comments from people that say, I can't believe she dragged that stuff all the way up there, you know. Well, we didn't. You know,
You should have seen what I really brought.
Don't tell them about that. You know, in answer to the question, how much planning goes in, really not that much. Sometimes there is planning that's done after the initial vlog was filmed so that we can add content into it to enhance it. But when I go out on a vlog, there's really zero planning. It's just, okay, let's go and have fun, and it's pretty much spontaneous. Scott PDX asked about a nice view of your home gym setup. This is it. That's all there is. Okay, from John Drummond. I'm an editing newbie, also using DaVinci Resolve. So yes, I'd like to see how you approach editing. Yeah, so I edit in DaVinci Resolve. So if I go into Resolve here, I'll show you a basic timeline of one of my videos. So I pretty much just drop the clips into the timeline in the order that they were filmed, except for, like, you know, auxiliary content like a skit that was filmed 2 months later. But the actual vlog, I'll just drag the file from, let's say, my hard drive, and I'll just drop it onto the timeline like that. And then I'll watch it, and then I'll just cut the boring bits out, put it into the main track, and I'll just synchronize it to music. And I do that manually. So here's some clips that I put into the timeline next to my theme tune. And what I always like to do is I like to synchronize each cut, each little piece of footage. I like to time it to the beat of the music. So if there's a 2-bar section, I'll cut the video to fit those 2 bars. So if you watch like this, right? So each clip that you see, each clip follows the music. Now, it doesn't necessarily work if you've got very soft ambient music that doesn't follow a strict time, but whenever I have a beat to the music, I like to keep it tight, and that's where my audio background comes in. I like everything in its perfect place. If you look at these keyframes here, the volume dips just before the voiceover kicks in, and typically I'll drop the volume by about minus 18 decibels. So if I switch off the voice, you'll hear the music dip. So, but it's still there, right? So when I put the voiceover in,
After a full 10 hours of driving,
what I like to have is the music should just be audible underneath the voiceover. And I see this as a mistake in a lot of beginner vloggers, is when you're mixing your audio, you need to really pay attention to the levels. And if I can't hear your voice because the music is too loud, that's a problem. So you need to fix that. You need to make sure that that volume dips. Now, the amount that you make it dip is relative to how loud that music is, because sometimes you'll get a piece of music that's been really heavily compressed and maximized, and it's very, very loud. Even though it's underneath that 0 decibel line, it just sounds very, very loud. You might have to drop that 22 decibels. But if you've got a piece of soft piano music and you put that in your timeline, you might only have to drop that minus 12 or minus 15 decibels. But those are some sort of ballpark numbers that you want to look at every time you drop in a voiceover. That's really important. So if you're doing voiceover, or if you're doing talking heads to the camera, do not let the background music override your voice, because that's going to disconnect the audience immediately. It'll irritate them, and that might be some of the reasons why you get thumbs down. I just have thumbs down because people don't like fart jokes. Miserable b****. Another thing that's really helpful is when you're going through your footage, what I need to do is separate the good parts, the good takes, from the bloopers, because the good takes will end up in the finished skit during the vlog, and then the bloopers will end up at the end. So what I do is I color code the cuts. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So for example, this scene that I did with Wayne, what I do when I'm looking at the main clip, I'll color code the usable clips bright green, or in this case lime green. And in Resolve you just right click and you go to clip color and you choose the color. So I just choose lime. So these clips here,
I think tomorrow morning you take me for a sunrise shoot and teach me some photography lessons.
God, I can't be giving like free so those were the good ones that I knew I'd be able to use. And now if I show you the end of the timeline here, you'll see these pink ones. So the ones that end up as bloopers, which I can't use in the actual clip, the actual skit, but I can use them in the end as bloopers, they get color coded pink. So that's what they end up looking like in the timeline.
Did you bring the money? It's like Frankenstein's front door.
So that really helps in the editing process when I'm looking for clips, because you end up with all of these tiny little cuts. If you zoom out of that timeline like this, how am I going to find? It's like a needle in a haystack. So by color coding the clips, I will know where are they going to end up in the main timeline. Okay, one final thing that I'll show you, and this is something that I can't understand why people aren't using these basic audio production tools to make your vlogs or your shows or whatever it is that you do. Like even on channels that have 10 million subscribers, they're not doing this. So this is something that I think everybody should be doing, and that is adding EQ and compression. Right, so if you look at this EQ, this equalizer on this track, what you're basically looking at is a cut of the very, very low end bass rumble. And the reason why I cut that is because I don't want that plosive, that to make that awful rumbly sound. So I've cut it there, but here I've boosted the bass in my voice to make it sound more rich. And here you can really see how I've boosted the high end to give it a lot more presence and make it brighter. So basically, if you just think of it in like basic terms, bass, middle, and treble, like you used to see on your granddad's stereo, that's what you're doing, right? So you can really boost the presence of your voice. You can make it sound richer and stronger and brighter by having some EQ. So what I'll do is I'll switch that off and I'll play you the audio.
Hello, hello. This is Fototripper headquarters.
Now go back and do that again with the EQ on.
Hello, hello. This is Fototripper headquarters.
It's so much more punchy, it's so much brighter and clearer, and that's something that pretty much every video editing package has. Premiere has a kind of a similar thing, but it's not as good. That's one of the reasons why I love Resolve, because it has way better EQ and compression on all of the audio tracks, and it's pretty much real time. You can switch it on and off, you can tweak it, you can listen to the audio as you're shaping those frequencies, just like any DAW or digital audio workstation. And then the second thing that you can do, which is even more important and more powerful, is compression. So if I go back to this, and I put my compression on, you'll see here that this has a fairly aggressive compressor set to it. So again, I'll switch this off and I'll play this for you.
Hello, hello. This is Fototripper headquarters, recording an extremely lame voiceover.
So it sounds really bad on the sibilance, but when I put this compressor on, what that does is it kind of puts a limit on how loud those loud parts of the waveform are allowed to get. And it will also push up the quieter parts of the waveform, so it evens out the signal and generally makes it sound more punchy and more in your face and much clearer. So now I'll put this back on.
Hello, hello. This is Fototripper headquarters.
And again, I'll just give it you one more time with that off.
Hello, hello. This is Fototripper headquarters.
And of course, for that to work really well, you need to have a good signal in the first place. If your audio is really quiet, you're going to need to boost that first, so that as it's going through the compressor triggers and squeezes down those high points, those transients in that waveform. So having a compressor and an EQ, doing a bit of research, go on YouTube and look for some free tutorials on how to tweak those settings. Just those two things on your voiceovers, on the audio when you're doing a talking head out in the field, it's really going to make your production sound a lot more professional, and it's something that I just couldn't do without. This is Leo. He's decided that he's going on the treadmill now, the walking pad. So we'll just wait. We'll just wait for him to finish washing himself. We don't want to interrupt. Oh, he's done. There we go. Okay, back to the tour. So John Drummond also asked about color grading, so I'll just show you a quick demo of that. But in all honesty, I really don't have a clue what I'm doing when it comes to video color grading in Resolve. But what I do like about Resolve is these color wheels. So basically, you can just select a clip and just play with these color wheels. You can play with the gain, the gamma. Gamma seems to really boost the mid-tones and bring up the shadows. And then you've got this lift, which is also the shadows, but it basically just makes the dark darks just less dark. It doesn't really boost the shadow detail. So I just pretty much use the gamma and the gain, but you can do so much more. You can, let's just say you wanted to make the shadows cooler, so you could click on this area here, pull those towards the blues, just undo that. So you got your primary wheels, then you got your log wheels, so you could bring down the highlights, just pull that over there, or you could decide you wanted the highlights warmer, so you'd pick that point and push that up to there. But like I said, in all honesty, I'm a total novice when it comes to color grading in DaVinci Resolve. I sometimes see comments, people saying, oh, you've got the best life ever, you know, your lifestyle is fantastic. And you might think that because what you get to see is me climbing up a mountain, having some epic adventure, and then getting some lovely pictures, and that's what you get to see. But the reality is that epic adventure, yes, they do happen, but they are probably about 4% of the time. You know, 4% of my life is spent doing these epic adventures. The other 96% of my life is spent studying on this bloody walking pad, editing these videos, because it takes forever to put these together. I would say on average, a minimum of 2 days, and probably a maximum of 4 days. once I may have spent 5 days editing just one episode. And then there's the time that I spend editing the images as well. So I might spend 2 hours editing one image, which I then drop into the video, and then the rest of it is all video editing. And that's because of all of those little cuts and those little bits of comedy timing. And then, you know, just I could spend 4 hours trying to find a piece of music to fit into the video. So yes, I have a great lifestyle. It's full of adventure 4% of the time. The rest of it is drudgery and hard work, but I enjoy it. You know, I enjoy putting the story together. I spend a lot of time laughing at this console because of the stupid shenanigans, you know. So yeah, it's hard work, it's very time consuming, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Oh, that brings me on to another question. A lot of people ask about the music. So my music, I would say it's about 50% my own music, which comes from my music production background when I used to produce stock music for my own stock libraries. And then the rest of the music comes from Epidemic Sound, and they've got some fantastic stuff on there. To be quite honest, I would probably use more of my own music if my own music wasn't just this hard drive full of random songs, instead of, you know, going to Epidemic Sound where I can go to all of these different genres and categories and moods. I can even search by BPM. It's often quicker for me to just go there, pick somebody else's music, than it is for me to rifle through my hard drive listening to hundreds and hundreds of songs to try and find the perfect match to the footage. Some of the more, you know, notable tracks that you hear, like my theme tune at the beginning and at the end, and whenever you see a comedy skit, that's my own music that I've composed and produced. Oh, we got to get this one in. Right, I've got a message from my stalker, Low Light Mike. I'm a Nanaimo guy. So I'd like to see a few quick obscure glances out the window so that I can drive myself crazy trying to place the landmarks in the background.
Is that a real one?
Yeah, that's a real one.
What?
Yeah, well, sorry, Stalker Mike, but you know, I've closed the window there, I've closed the blinds, and I'm not even going to tell you what's behind that door there, so...
And we have recently moved.
Don't tell him that.
What?
Well, he thinks we're still in Nanaimo. Oh. Yeah, keep guessing. Right, I think that is pretty much all I've got time for, so yeah, that's it, innit?
I think I have one more question.
What?
When do you think you're going to get married?
That's not on here. So what we'll do now is we'll go and introduce you to Sterling, the other cat. Let's go and do that. Oh, just a quickie about the guitar. The reason why I picked this cheap old Squire to do a few licks on is simply because it's the only one that was even remotely in tune and hadn't had a few snapped strings. Like I say, I haven't played in years, so this was quite painful for me. I've lost all my calluses, but one day I'll start playing again and get into it and maybe even do a little bit of singing for you guys. So that's my cheapo Mexican Squire Strat, I think. This is Sterling, and he likes to do this thing where he sticks his tongue out, which I knew he wasn't going to do. Oh, he's so bloody cute though, aren't you? Alright then.
Free grappling matches happen every hour on the hour, and Leo always wins.
Basically, you can't walk past him, you can't leave without stepping over him, and he'll stay there until he gets fed. So that's Sterling, that's what he does.
What a brat.